Chapter 6. Dreamlike Dive. Tiana parked the car in its usual spot in the garage. Tom sat beside her, clutching his backpack on his lap, his gaze still vacant. She wanted to comfort him but didn't know how. Everything still felt like a game, something silly. But the three of them were taking it far too seriously for it not to be real. They got out of the car in silence. It was just past 6 when they arrived home, and as they'd imagined, dinner was already on the table. Back home together today? That's unusual, their mother said with a smile as she saw the two of them come in through the garage door. Yeah, I went for a little drive with the brat after school, Tiana replied, sitting at the table and beginning to serve herself. Her brother headed upstairs. Something going on with him? He looks so down, their mother said, watching her son slowly climb the stairs. Put your things away, then come eat. I don't think anything happened. Probably still upset about that girl. Luckily, the breakup with Mandy was a convenient excuse. It was better to say that than to explain that her son might be living through an episode of The Twilight Zone. Tom came down for dinner, exhausted, eating only because he had to. As he chewed listlessly, a thought echoed in his mind. If I don't do this today, will I get another chance tomorrow? Reluctantly, he cleaned his plate. His mother's cooking was delicious, but tonight, he could barely taste it. Not long after, he took a long, hot shower and settled into bed to watch TV. He didn't last 5 minutes before sleep overtook him, even though it wasn't even 8 p.m. yet. Thomas didn't notice the exact moment he realized he was dreaming. He simply became aware that he was there, sitting still for some time, with nothing happening. Unbothered, he looked around. The place was worthy of a dream, like a countryside home, but unlike any he had ever seen. The sky had a purplish hue, and in the distance, a massive ring loomed across the horizon like Saturn's. The vegetation surrounding him was equally unfamiliar, plants and trees unlike those of Earth, but the strong smell of wood and forest was strangely familiar. All the foliage around him was in shades of red or brown. The table and chair where he sat were quite ordinary in design, but the wood was unnaturally smooth, without knots or imperfections. As he admired the alien landscape, a person stepped out of the house. It was himself, or rather someone with his face, but with a presence and posture that exuded an authority Tom could never hope to match. "Hello, Tom." "Glad you've awakened," said the other Tom, sitting down across from him. "This is the first time I've dreamed of myself, at least that I remember." Tom chuckled nervously. Something about the situation made him uneasy. "Ah, yes, this appearance." The other Tom smiled as well. "But I'm not exactly you. Do you see this house? This field?" He gestured at their surroundings with a nostalgic gaze. "I was born here, just a few meters from where we are now." The real Tom looked puzzled. Everything around him felt more real by the minute. The false Tom stood and walked a few paces to better admire the sprawling, beautiful field beside the cabin. After a few seconds of silence, he continued. "That was a long time ago. Centuries, maybe, by your calendar. I'm sure this house no longer exists, but I hold this memory dearly. It was the last time I saw this cabin before leaving for the academy." "Who are you, and why are we having this conversation?" "Thomas, I am what your people would typically call a mage, or a sorcerer," the other Tom replied. Tom smiled awkwardly. It didn't sound convincing at all. "You may not believe it, which is normal. After all, your world was not blessed with a deity, but it's true." "What do you mean?" Tom suddenly put the pieces together. "You have something to do with what's been happening to me, don't you?" "Yes, I do." The other paused. "Tom, you are not entirely you. For now you are, but soon you won't be." "What?" That made even less sense. "How can I explain it better?" He paused for a few seconds. "We'll have many conversations like this, so there's no need to understand everything all at once. In simple terms, I reincarnated, and I am you. But this version of me, the one you're seeing now, is my consciousness locked inside your mind. When you sleep, We can briefly share your body as two individuals, let's say. The real Tom clearly didn't like hearing that, absurd as it sounded. This side of you has been dormant in our minds since you were born. But now that you're maturing, we'll slowly begin to merge, so to speak. No way! Tom felt violated. He could feel something inside him, like a parasite revealing itself. Well, you don't have a choice. You're only alive because of me, and I have a strong interest in keeping it that way. If you have any doubts, ask your parents. Tom tried to speak again, but couldn't open his mouth. It was sealed. Right now you need to listen more than talk, the mage continued. You're smart. You've noticed you're in danger. These blackouts, as you called them, were necessary for me to defend you. The mage stood and adjusted his stance, gesturing as he spoke. Your body is still very fragile and can't withstand the flow of energy that passes through during a spell, he demonstrated with his hands. So, for now, here's what we'll do. I'm going to send you to a special place. When you arrive, pay attention to the instructions given by the statue and try not to die. In our next meeting, I'll answer more of your questions. Now go. Tom felt a heat spread through his body and his vision was overtaken by a golden flash. When it cleared, he found himself standing in a large room made of rough bricks. The walls were lined with strange cabinet-like furniture. In the center stood a massive statue. It looked like it was made of marble, depicting what could loosely be called a woman. Curves similar to a human's, but clearly something else. Her eyes were large and slightly bulging from her face. No eyebrows, no nose. Her mouth was oval, and even closed, Tom could tell it wasn't like his. Her long hair was adorned with a grand, intricate crown. She had 2 pairs of arms, one pair raised toward the sky in a gesture of praise, and the other holding a sword resting on the ground. Tom stood staring at the statue in the strange room. Every detail, the musty smell, the dust floating in the air, was too vivid to be a dream. Somehow he felt like he was actually there. Like a child, he rubbed his eyes, as if hoping to see his bedroom instead. But in doing so, he noticed something horrifying. He was no longer in his own body. Worse yet, he was naked. He now inhabited the body of a creature resembling the statue, 4 arms and all. Nearby, a rack held some clothing. He grabbed it and tried to get dressed, but it was a disaster. No matter how he tried, he couldn't control the extra set of arms. Just as he was about to give up, a voice echoed through the room. So, your original body only has 2 arms. Tom jumped, startled. The statue's eyes glowed, and the voice came from her, even though her lips didn't move. Yes, only 2, he replied. Though the voice sounded foreign, his mind understood the meaning perfectly. Then let's dispose of the excess. With that, one of the arm pairs dropped to the floor with a wooden thud. Tom recoiled in horror, losing his balance and falling over. The severed arms rolled on the ground like mannequin limbs. You're more scared than anyone else who's come through here, the statue said with no emotion in her voice. Wait, others have been through this. Yes, not many considering the time, but a few. You seem the least prepared of anyone. Thanks, Tom muttered as he stood and resumed dressing. With only 2 arms now, he managed to get the clothes on. Creature, I am the spirit of Ka, and I will be your guardian while you remain in this plane. What is your name? Which deity blesses your people? My name's Tomas, but you can call me Tom. As for deity, I don't know. We have a lot of religions, each with their own gods. But there's no one we could say blesses us specifically. Honestly, I'm not sure what you mean. The strange Tom had mentioned that their world lacked divine blessings. Was this what he meant? A people without a blessing. Peculiar indeed. If you had a deity, their presence would be as constant as the water you drink. The mere fact that you don't know tells me that your world has no divine granted arts. If you say so, I won't argue. I have no clue what's going on. Understandable. Let me clarify your situation. Right now, you're inhabiting one of my master's golems. This allows you to live in this plane while unconscious in your original world. You mean I'm not really here? No, you are here. This place is as real as the bed where your body sleeps. And if I get hurt, or wake up, what happens to me? If you are injured, you will feel pain, like any other creature. And if this body is destroyed, you will be abruptly pulled back into your original body. Even if you don't die, the experience will feel like death, and your mind may suffer greatly. Tom let out a long sigh. At least he wouldn't die, but still, doing anything reckless was definitely out of the question. All right, so why am I here? You are in the city of Bushkar, where the practice of divine arts is highly encouraged. There is no better place to begin learning. So I'm here to learn then? Since you come from a plane without gods, your knowledge must be non-existent. Your species likely isn't born ready to handle the flow of divine energy. I assume your presence here is primarily to prepare your body to channel such forces in your original form. And how am I supposed to channel this stuff if I don't actually learn anything? There is no real need for you to learn. You already know, but it is important for your body to adapt quickly to the use of divine energy. That doesn't make sense. I'm not here with my physical body, so how is it going to adapt? Much of what happens here reflects back onto your original body. You are still linked to it. The adaptation would be more effective if you were here physically, but that isn't possible in your current state. Trying to apply logic to magic won't work. Might as well accept the madness, Tom muttered. You don't have a choice. You are my master, but your memories need a mature body to begin resurfacing. This is all way too insane. But if I'm really here, if this is all real, I can't pretend I'm not interested. I mean, seeing a world completely different from mine. I don't know what your world is like, but one without a god must be a kind of purgatory. I hope that during your time here, you'll be graced by the vision of one of our deities. You mean like, they just walk around? Yes. After all, how else could they bless the people without being present? Tomas couldn't imagine that ever working back on Earth. Take everything inside the chest near the door and explore. When your time here ends, you'll return to your origin. Don't worry about the golem. It will return to this place on its own. Okay, so that's it for now. Yes, Thomas walked, awkwardly, toward the chest by the door. Inside, he found a kind of backpack, designed for someone with 4 arms, a container that looked like a canteen, and a small notebook. As he flipped through its pages, he realized it was some kind of documentation. Although he understood the spoken language here, he couldn't read a single word written in the notebook. Without delay, he placed everything into the pack and stepped outside the room into the new world beyond. A staircase awaited, built from the same rough bricks as the room. Only 2 lanterns lit the way, one at the top and one at the bottom. Each emitted light from a glowing stone, a soft, phosphorescent gleam. At the base of the stairs, Thomas entered what seemed to be a small chapel, no more than 2 meters in diameter. In a place of honor stood a small statue similar to the larger one he had first seen. At its feet were some offerings, but he didn't pay them much attention. The chapel's exit had no door. It was open. And through it, Tom laid eyes on this new world for the first time. The small sanctuary was tucked among alien vegetation. Trees with yellow leaves and flowers grew everywhere. A cobbled road ran just outside. To reach the chapel, one had to step off the path and pass through what could be described as underbrush, though it wasn't exactly that. Along the road, wooden posts rose every few meters, but they looked as if they had grown directly from the earth. Trees twisted into that shape for a specific purpose. Tom stepped out into the middle of the street. It was a beautiful day. The sky was blue like Earth's, with no clouds. The only difference was a massive planet hanging across half the horizon. There was no denying it, he was not home. That giant celestial body covering half the sky stunned him so much he nearly missed the vast city sprawling far ahead. He realized he must be on the outskirts of Bushkar, and this road would take him to its heart. From afar, he couldn't make out many details of the metropolis. It looked like the fantasy cities in his video games, though some buildings were towering and brightly coloured. The view was stunning. The contrast between the golden trees and the flawless blue sky filled him with joy. He adjusted the pack on his shoulder. Who would have thought not having an extra pair of arms would be a problem? And so, he began to walk. His sense of time was as scrambled as his thoughts. Maybe it had been just a few minutes, maybe hours. Along the way, he passed simple homes and farms. He didn't recognize any of the crops or livestock he saw. Strangely, he hadn't seen a single other four-armed creature. Everything was so quiet, but the silence gradually faded the closer he got to the city. There were no walls, moats, or gates to mark the boundary of Bushkar. It grew organically, spreading across the land. As the number of houses increased, Tom realized he was already walking its streets. The number of people around him swelled as he continued. All of them were heading in the same direction, toward the city centre, just like he was. No one seemed to pay him any attention, which actually put him at ease. It allowed him to enjoy the strange experience. The streets were decorated with banners and flower-like ornaments. The air was rich with aromas, citrus perfumes, and the scent of frying food. So many smells and sounds swirled around that he couldn't separate them. After climbing a small slope, Thomas arrived at a high point with a breathtaking panoramic view of Bushkar. The city stretched as far as the eye could see. Now he could hear the sounds of celebration clearly. Kites, or something like them, zipped above the rooftops, faster than any ordinary kite could fly. But the most incredible thing of all was the colossal cannon standing in the city's heart. Larger than any structure Tom had ever seen, its barrel alone cast a vast shadow over the buildings below. And strangely, Tom didn't feel it was meant for war. The cannon's entire frame was adorned with elaborate decorations. Around its enormous base, the centre of the celebration unfolded. As he stood there, stunned by the view, someone, one of the locals, stopped beside him and said, "Beautiful, isn't it?" Startled, Tom jumped slightly. He hadn't expected to talk to anyone and didn't know how to react. "I'm sorry." "I didn't mean to scare you," said the person kindly. Tom wasn't sure if the expression was a smile, but something in the voice made it feel that way. "No, it's okay. I was just lost in thought." "First time in Bushkar?" "Yeah. I've never seen anything like this." "It really is a beautiful city." The stranger turned back to admire the view, then offered, "Nice to meet you. My name is Tratzanel," and extended one of her arms for a handshake, the pair Tom no longer had. He didn't know the local custom, so he froze for a second. Trat noticed and pulled her hand back quickly. "My apologies. That was rude of me. I didn't notice your condition." "No need to apologize. I didn't know what to do. I'm Thomas." Tom wasn't terrible at socializing. Not really, but the situation caught him off guard. He was completely unprepared. And really, this was humanity's first interaction with another intelligent species. No pressure. "Thomas? That's unusual," Trat said politely. She meant strange, but politeness kept her from saying so. "Just Thomas?" "Yes. I know it's weird, but that's my name." Tom didn't see any need to mention his surname and confuse things further. Now that he looked closely, Trat vaguely resembled the statue. Probably female. Maybe. "But what deity blessed you at birth?" she asked. "As you can see, I was blessed by Zanel, which isn't so common in this region since we're in Kar's domain." "I wouldn't know," Tom said, laughing awkwardly. Trat already felt a little guilty for embarrassing him earlier. Now she looked genuinely sympathetic. Even Tom could tell. So he quickly changed the subject. "That huge structure and the festival. Do you know what they're for?" "You're here and don't know what's happening?" she asked, surprised. "No idea." "Today we're celebrating the launch of the first diplomatic mission to Jantir." "Jantir?" "Yes, Jantir." She pointed to the massive planet on the horizon. "Are you feeling all right?" "Ah, yeah, it's just that my memory isn't the best, let's say." "Then forgive me again for being so rude." She lowered her head, clearly uncomfortable. "Would you like me to walk with you the rest of the way? It looks like we're both heading to the festival." "Sure, that'd be nice." Tom walked alongside Trat down the cobbled street that led to the heart of the city. With every block they passed, the crowd grew denser. Everyone was heading toward the central square for the grand event, which seemed about to begin. The native woman unintentionally became a kind of tour guide, explaining various things to the bewildered newcomer. For her, this was an odd but delightful experience. The festivities took place in Bushkar's main district, where the narrow streets gave way to wide plazas filled with statues, fountains, government buildings, and temples. Further ahead, kilometers away, stood the massive cannon's base. All along that road, dozens of colourful vendor stalls had been set up just for the occasion. The smell of the food made Tom's mouth water with curiosity. While he admired the unfamiliar treats, he noticed people around him were staring and whispering, even giggling. It didn't feel hostile, but he couldn't quite read their expressions. "Are you hungry?" Trat asked. "The food here is wonderful." "Yeah, it smells amazing." But in the back of his mind, Tom wondered, can I even eat with this body? He flashed back to those wooden arms falling to the ground. "Trat, why does it feel like people are staring at me? Is it that weird to have only 2 arms? It's certainly unusual. If someone suffers a major injury like that, it's usually curable, at least if treated quickly." She thought for a moment. "And if the healer is really talented, even old wounds can be reversed." Then she grew a bit shy. "But I don't think that's why people are staring." Trat walked ahead to one of the food stalls and bought a small basket with 2 caramelized dough balls. She returned and handed one to Tom. "Try this, I love these." "Thanks." Tom popped the whole thing in his mouth. It was a fried dough ball with a tangy, fruity filling. Delicious. "Wow, that's really good, but I don't have any money to pay you back." "It's fine." "I'm happy you liked it. That's enough for me." She smiled. "So, why are people staring?" "Well, because you're really attractive," she admitted, blushing. "Like sculpted. I've never met anyone like you." "You're joking, right?" It's probably because of my arms. Tom tugged awkwardly at his tunic's dangling sleeves, which hung emptily where his extra limbs had once been. Before she could respond, a bright flash lit the sky. Trat immediately pulled Tom close. "It's starting," she said. Dozens of coloured balloons rose into the sky around the cannon. Music swelled. Cheers and clapping erupted from the crowd. Tom felt the vibrations of celebration deep in his chest. His vision even trembled. Then came a second flash and everything went quiet. A colossal image of Car appeared in the sky. Tom recognized the figure instantly, identical to the statue that had greeted him. But now he felt it. There was no doubt in his mind. This was a divine being. Just looking at her filled him with warmth. His mood soared into euphoria. A huge smile stretched across his face, unbidden. It was overwhelming, hard to describe, impossible to look away. The goddess began to descend towards the cannon. Even next to such a massive structure, she made it look small. She placed one hand gently on the tip of the barrel, blessing it. Then she turned toward the crowd and blessed them too. A fine golden dust rained down on everyone, including Tom. As it settled on his skin, he felt a rush of pleasure, more intense than anything he'd ever experienced. A scent, a sensation, a whisper of joy. Everything and nothing at once. Then, as suddenly as she had come, Car began to fade as her hands showered the last of the blessings upon the crowd, and the sounds of celebration returned. Trat turned to Tom, eyes wide with excitement. This was a once-in-a-lifetime moment. Seeing a god wasn't unheard of, especially in a city like Bushkar, but being personally blessed by one, that was legendary. Families would speak of it for generations. Tom, for his part, was overwhelmed. It was all too much. He was happy, sure, but the intensity felt unnatural, like something had been poured into him. It was incredible, yes, but disturbing too. Is this what being high feels like? He wondered, trying to shake it off. Before he could ask anything, something fast and silent zipped over their heads. Trat turned to him quickly, placing both her hands over his ears, and her other pair over her own. A moment later, the sound hit. The deafening blast of the cannon roared through the plaza. Tom would have collapsed if she hadn't been holding him. The crowd stared upward, watching the projectile soar toward Jantir, leaving a trail of smoke behind. Finally, Tom realized they launched the diplomats in the cannon. That was never going to work, and it wouldn't have. But apparently, magic solved a lot of problems. Trat released Tom and apologized for grabbing him. As they continued chatting, Tom began to feel something strange in his mind, like a detuned guitar string being plucked. His alarm clock was going off somewhere in the distance. "I have to go, Trat. Time for me to head back." "That's a shame. Can't you send me an enchantment sometime so we can talk again?" I don't know how. I think I'm here to learn that sort of thing. At least, I think that's why I'm here." "You've never done an enchantment? Not even a simple one?" To her, that was like saying you didn't know how to send a text. Though, come to think of it, Tom rarely used his phone either. "Never." "Give me your hand," she said with a warm smile. "Palm up, like this." She adjusted his hand gently. "I don't know how Car's followers do it, but if it's anything like Zanelle's, this should work." Tom nodded, watching. "Now, picture a thread connecting your hand to mine," she said, raising her own a few inches above his. "Focus on that thread as clearly as you can. The farther apart we are, the harder it'll be." Tom had no trouble creating the image in his mind. Everything else seemed to fade as he visualized the glowing thread between them. Even in this body, he still felt like himself, the Tom. "Now you should feel a tingling, like static around your body. That's the energy trying to flow through you." He did. It was just like she described. "If you're ready, repeat after me. Zain'll carry my thoughts. Bless me with your lightness. Deliver my message." Tom didn't say it aloud. He only thought the words. But something happened. A sudden pulse like a pebble dropped in still water. Trat gasped. In her mind's eye, she saw the real Tom holding her hand. "You okay?" he asked as he opened his eyes. Yes, it worked. You learned really fast. I didn't think you'd get it on the first try. I didn't even hear your enchantment." "Well, is that all I have to do?" "That's all there is to it, for a simple charm. Just send me one when you want to talk and I'll—" And then her voice faded. "Reach you. Again."